lifestyle choices, and environmental factors impact your brain health and the physiology and psychology of your mental health. When you're ready to turn your brain on to get your game on, listen to In Your Head Radio. Now here's your host, Leigh Richardson.
So thanks for being with us today, listeners. We've got a really interesting show. We've got Shai Tubali, and he's a happiness history expert. Definitely what the world needs today. He's got numerous books that have appeared internationally for the past 2 decades in 11 languages. He's been published by major publishers. His most prominent writings have won awards in the United States and in Israel. Several have become bestsellers, inspiring many thousands on their inner journeys of mental, emotional, and spiritual transformation. He's a PhD researcher at the University of Leeds in the UK, and Tubali explores 35 meditation techniques from all over the world in his newest book. And that's a complete book of meditation coming in January 2023, so it's maybe out there already. Sometimes those dates don't hold exactly, but I'm sure this one will be there very soon, if not already. With postgraduate expertise in science fiction, film, and pop culture, Tubali shares common principles that can help modern humans struggling with trauma, fear, uncertainty, depression, anxiety, and screen addiction. There's a lot of different modalities and research on finding calm and clarity on his website. And at the end of the show, we'll share that site with you. So, Shai, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
You know, and I said in the intro, and I mean this, I think that globally we're going through some particularly trying times. It seems like we never get ahead. My heart goes out to all the people that have experienced the earthquake in Turkey, and there's just so much that's always going on, the Ukraine and Russia. And one of the things that I've seen with people coming to the Brain Performance Center is they've lost their happiness. They've when I ask what brings joy, what puts joy in your life, I get just a blank stare. And, tell us a little bit about your work with happiness.
Well, it depends on which angle we would like to focus on, because on the one hand, I think my work is an intriguing blend of academic research in philosophy, on the one hand, and self-transformation on the other hand. So in my academic research, what I have done is to grasp the sources of or the perception or conception of happiness in ancient cultures of philosophy, including ancient Greek philosophy and ancient Indian philosophy. So, and I think that this of course relates to the other field of expertise, which is self-transformation, because what these traditions tell us about happiness actually, I think, has remained relevant even after 2,500 years. So what they tell us is that happiness is something that belongs or that refers to our natural state. It's a natural state of the mind. It's not something that you achieve. It's not something that you conquer. And I think that nowadays happiness has become a commodity or a destination. You see, we're trying so much to achieve it, whereas meditation tells us this is not the right direction. You are looking in the wrong direction. The right direction is deep within you, right here, right now. As soon as you stop making the effort of becoming somebody, as soon as you stop trying to reach somewhere, you are beginning to remove these obscurations that prevent you from seeing who you are right now. So happiness, also in the ancient understanding, the context of ancient understanding is that it is something that you only need to be able to remove the obscurations rather than create or bring about.
Well, I certainly appreciate what you're saying. Is that, and I say it in a different way, but happiness comes from within. It's instead of looking at something that we can create, an event, a situation, it all has to come from within.
Yes, exactly. Because our mind is the source of suffering. This is the ancient perception. Our mind is the source of suffering. The mind creates its own suffering, its own entanglements, and therefore the mind is also the only element that can liberate us, that can bring the suffering to an end.
Well, for those people and there are a lot of people that do suffer from depression or anxiety, and it's what I call emotional dysregulation. And
Yes.
many times they've struggled with it their whole life because, genetics plays a role in how that brain works on your mental health, just like it does on your physical health. But for people that have been through trauma, and I don't wish it on anybody, Shai, but I think everybody's experienced it. I think it's part of life. So for those that they've been through trauma and they're still experiencing stress from that trauma, what would be the first step for someone to reach out and to try to create that calm, that peace that will allow them to move forward?
Yeah, this is a wonderful point, Leigh, because I think that starting to perceive meditation as one of the keys to healing traumas is an important step. Because the thing with meditation is that the first benefit or the first purpose of meditation is to heal our existential tension. You see, we are experiencing an extreme form of existential tension, and this is because we constantly expect life to be able to provide us with this sense of stability, with this sense of security. This is exactly what I would say what trauma is all about. It is when life is shaken to a degree that we feel that we can no longer trust life, circumstances, or people. For instance, we know just now that the earth can literally shake and lead to such disasters as we are seeing right now. So then we have this kind of expectation that life will provide us with this haven, that life will finally become a secure or a stable or a solid ground. But then meditation tells you, no, this is actually the other way around. You are meant to create your own stability, your own inner stability. A certain place in you, you need to tap into a certain place in you where you are unaffected by time, circumstances, change, and upheaval. And this is, I think, the healing factor of meditation, because you are actually able to get in touch with a place that has never been affected or shaped by circumstances, not even by your greatest traumas.
Well, I think a lot of people want that, but I think that's when that fear element comes into play. And with a lot of people that I work with, they're stuck in that fight, flight, or fear mode. That autonomic nervous system is just thrown out of balance. And that window of tolerance to keep it in balance is very small. It doesn't take much to throw it out. And sometimes when you're bouncing back and forth between fight, flight, or fear, it can be paralyzing.
Yes, and I'm also not saying that we should discard therapy altogether and just focus on meditation as the one key, because I agree, for many of us there is this deeply engraved fear that hinders our ability to actually let go and sink into a meditative state. But this is why I think we first of all, we have certain types of meditation which belong to the category of dynamic meditations. And in dynamic meditations, we are able to literally shake away these physical imprints, these stagnation, because we do not necessarily need to immediately enter into silent, closed-eyed meditation. We can actually begin by dancing or moving in certain ways that enable us to release these immediate tensions.
Well, I do know the brain needs to move. The brain loves to move. So when you said dancing, that just, I'm like, absolutely. Or taking a walk, enjoying the feel of the sun on your shoulders. It certainly puts my brain in a calmer spot. It certainly opens my heart to what's going on, the energy around me.
Yes, so you're already describing an act of mindfulness, because you are beginning to not just have some pleasurable moments, but also imbue these pleasurable moments with a sense of presence, because this is the factor that expands our pleasurable moments and makes us conscious of all that is happening around. So this begins to connect us with the present moment. And the present moment is already a form of healing, because it shows us that we can, at least to a certain degree, from time to time, be completely grounded in the present without the effects of the past. We don't always need to carry the past on our shoulders.
No, we don't. But so many of us hold on to the past. And I really believe it's because they don't know how to let it go. Or it's been so ingrained in their mental DNA for so long that it's their default mode. So for people out there that have something in their past that they need to let go of, and personally, I think that's just about everybody. And the first step, if they can become more in touch with themselves, it sounds like that will give them the security, the inner security that they need to start to move forward. And it sounds really easy, but it's not quite that easy for a lot of people. Coach us on that.
Well, I think that's why we have been given so many different forms of meditation, because for each of us, certain forms of meditation are more immediate keys to this state of relaxation, or to being able to remove this type of resistance. But if you're asking me to coach us on this, well, I would say that the first thing, before we are even attempting to involve ourselves with a certain form of meditation technique, before we are entering the technicalities of meditation, it is simply better, or it is wise to simply sit for a while, dedicate some time alone, resolving to be with myself, to develop intimacy with myself, and then making a certain intention, a certain heart declaration. This means that because the greatest hindrance to meditation is the fact that we are finding it very hard to not bring the world with us. You see, the world, our problems, we try to close our eyes and to relax, but then our mind is completely occupied with the many yesterdays, with the future, with trying to arrange our calendar. So instead of all that, we need to make a certain intention that we don't have to be the world's manager right now. Just as we are going to sleep every night, and when we are going to sleep, unless we have some sleep disorders, we are able to leave the world behind for some time. We leave our problems unresolved. So in the very same way, we are telling ourselves, now I am ready to leave the world behind, to leave my problems unresolved for some time, and to stop being the world's manager. So this immediately redirects my attention, and then all I need to do for some time is to not to do anything. You see? It's just about not focusing on anything in particular, not trying to reach somewhere. For some time, not be the doer, neither externally nor internally.
That's hard to do, because we're told that we need to take charge. We're in control of our future. We need to make things happen for us. And that's the way that we're programmed. We need to achieve. And what I hear you say is you just have to let it be. Just sit down and step away from everything that's going on around you and let it be.
Yes, because I think one of the first things that happened to us in meditation is that we begin to realize how our mind is creating its misery, and its misery is created by constantly trying to control everything, exactly as you're saying right now. So we're trying so hard. And now we can become aware of the way the mind can never really let go. Now, why can't the mind let go? This is the beginning of a certain internal investigation. I'm starting to become intimate with myself and to study the way the mind is. So meditation is not just about relaxation, about letting go, but also trying to observe the causes or the reasons that I cannot let go. This is one of the things that we need to understand about meditation, that sometimes people just want to relax when they meditate, and then they complain that they couldn't. So when they fail to relax, they drop meditation, they say, this is not for me. But this is a misunderstanding, because a part of the process of meditation is understanding why we cannot meditate. This is a part of the process. My difficulties, my blockages, my resistances, this is a time of learning.
It's a big time of learning, and it's self-reflection. And I hear a lot of people say that, when they change their energy, that other people in their family pick up on that energy change, and they don't know how to respond to it. They don't know exactly why the energy's changed. And sometimes we'll assume it's because something that we did that upset them, or we always want to blame ourselves. When we have nobody else to blame, we always have ourselves to blame. And for those people that have a hard time with that self-focus. That's because we've been taught that we need to care about other people. We need to think about other people. And it really sounds like it takes a high level of self-awareness and self-focus to get into that meditative state.
Yes, well, we always feel that we need to relate and that our existence also depends on relationships. I think this is a part of our problem, this sense of dependency on the existence of others, on others' confirmation. It's as if we need someone to confirm our own existence. And this is, I think, a major thing because when you are able to meditate even a little bit, this is a huge moment for you because it's the first time that you are beginning to confirm your own existence. You are telling yourself, it is enough that I exist. I don't need to prove something to anyone. I don't need to become. I don't need to perceive myself through my self-image. I think that's a source of tremendous freedom.
I think it is too, and that for me personally, that links into my spiritual self, the higher power in the universe, and I'm not sure that it does for everybody, but it does for me. Do you find the line between spirituality and meditation, there's some overlap?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
Well, what I'm asking is when people get into that meditative state, do they report being in a more of a spiritual state?
Well, yes, definitely. It all depends on how we define spirituality. Because for me, spirituality simply means resting in your natural state, in the natural state of your mind, in the being connected with your being rather than sense of becoming. It's so this is at least the beginning of spirituality. Spirituality also means expanding your consciousness, widening your consciousness. So of course, this involves many different types of expanded states of consciousness, but the principle is always the same. It's the sense that you are bigger than your body, you are bigger than your personality, than your present personality, you are bigger than your conditioning, you are bigger than your history, your past, your traumas. There is something in you that escapes these influences and that has remained free since the very beginning.
Oh, that actually makes a lot of sense when you put it in that perspective, because you have to go to find that inner peace. Sometimes we have to go back to the very beginning. We've got about 5 minutes left before we take a break. And in your book, you must have done a tremendous amount of research because you talk about 35 different meditation techniques from all over the world. And I'm sure how someone would approach meditation in the United States might be very different than how they would approach it in India. And is there a common theme that you see throughout those 35 techniques, regardless of the culture that they evolved from?
I would say that, first of all, this is a very important point since it is true, especially in the West, we are mainly focusing on what we consider benefits, the benefits of meditation. For example, that it improves our memory, it improves our sleep, and so on and so on. And but in the Eastern philosophy and practice, meditation is considered or valued for its purposes. So there is an important distinction between benefits and purposes. Now, we have meditations that range from forms of prayer, especially in the monotheistic religions, and silent sitting. And what I would say is that the common ground, what makes meditation a meditative practice or a meditative experience, is the fact that it stills your mind, it stills your senses, it stills your intellect in order to reveal a deeper reality about yourself or about life. Now, the range of experiences and revelations is tremendous. This meditation may widen your heart, may lead you to the discovery of unconditional love. Meditation can lead you to tremendous visions. And meditation can also lead you to silence. So there is a tremendous range of possibilities. And I think this is exactly the indication that our inner being is endless. We can travel and travel within ourselves and never find the edge.
Well, when you talk about inner being, to me that links directly into consciousness and subconsciousness, and there's a lot of different ways that people can approach that. I believe that trauma lives as much in our subconscious as it does in our conscious level, and most people tend to agree to that, in that it'll work its way up. And then it'll work, we'll say, I can't deal with that right down. And we'll push it back down. So I think there's a lot that we really need to think about as, when we talk about the expanded states of consciousness. And because, as I think we both have agreed, that is your inner health. And I've saw somewhere, or maybe on your website, you use the words life force. And that makes me feel like that's a driving, that's an intensity. And sometimes that's what it takes to be able to transition and move to that spot where you've wanted to go. You've wanted to go for so long, but it's just been difficult to really take the next step forward. We're going to take a break, and I hope our listeners will stay with us. We have so much more to talk about.
We'll be back after these messages.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
Biceps muscles are a characteristic part of the upper arm, and when they are strengthened, they become defined, hard, and strong. The Latin phrase for biceps muscle means two-headed muscle of the arm. The biceps crosses both the shoulder and elbow joints. Both heads arise on the scapula and join to form a single muscle belly, which is attached to the upper forearm. Because we use biceps muscles a lot in everyday use, they are usually one of the strongest muscles of your arm. Lifting weights and resistance exercises are the best ways to build the muscle, and there are a variety of biceps curls to choose from. You can do dumbbell curls, hammer curls, 21s, preacher curls, concentration curls, barbell curls, incline dumbbell curls, cable curls, and more. Be sure to include bicep curls in some form in your weightlifting routine for chiseled arms. For the Fitness Minute, I'm Annette Hammond.
It's words you never heard.
Do you ever get nervous riding in an elevator because you're afraid the cable might snap? It's entered my mind more than once. According to Elevator World magazine, on the rare occasion a cable breaks, the car won't plunge to the bottom. This is because elevators have as many as 10 cables holding them up, each capable of supporting a fully loaded car. Sometimes I feel a little mischievous in elevators. Next time you're feeling like a rapscallion, try one of these little jokes. When there's only one other person in the elevator, tap them on the shoulder and then pretend it wasn't you. Push one of the buttons and pretend it gave you a shock. Or maybe start a sing-along. What's a word for a person who thinks he's funny but no one else does? Witzelsucht.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
We're back. Now here is your host, Leigh Richardson.
So we're back, and before break, we were talking about a lot about meditation, and I want to learn more about the book, because the book shares with us 35 different meditation techniques. All have a different meaning and a different purpose. So Shai, share some of your research with us.
Well, I think that due to the overwhelming amount of meditations that have flooded our modern world ever since the Eastern philosophy and Eastern practice have opened the gates since the mid 20th century, we need some kind of way to navigate this map of meditation. This is why I found it necessary to divide the world of meditation into seven purposes or seven dimensions. So the first group of meditation deals with the ability to ground ourselves and to align our body and mind. These are meditations that help us to align body, breathing, and consciousness, and to relieve our existential tension. And this group of meditation, I think this is particularly beneficial for beginners, because it helps you to work with your body, to transform some of your daily activities into meditative practices. In this group of meditations, you practice the well-known mindfulness of breathing and walking meditation. You simply learn how to walk. You talked about walking before. And also standing meditation. You learn how to stand in a way that becomes meditation. Or body scan, which is a way of observing your sensations, befriending your sensations in a way that you no longer divide the pleasant and the unpleasant. And also sitting meditation, the way your posture becomes a meditation. So I think this is the most immediate access to the world of meditation.
I think that you're right. That's a really good place to start. And I use breathing with a lot of my clients as a way to help them focus, because to really breathe in that optimal breath range from 4 to 7 breaths a minute, it takes a lot of focus. And when you can calm that breath rate down, then you can calm that heart rate down. And then when you can get those two to dance together, you've created heart rate variability, and that certainly is a sign of inner wellness.
Yes, that's really beautiful. Yes, the thing is that breathing is, I would say, is the most immediate connection that we have with reality, with the here and now. Because usually, from the perspective of meditation, we are mostly daydreaming, because we are lost in thoughts and emotions rather than simply being. So breathing enables us, because it is the constant connection that we have with the world around us. Breathing is the energy that, or the air that we take from the world into our being, and then the air that we exhale. So this keeps us in a certain cycle of communication with the world around us, with reality rather than thoughts.
And that certainly is where we all want to be able to go, is to be in a place where we're at that inner state of wellness. So that's the first. You mentioned there were 7 different groups, categories. That's the first. What's the second?
Yes. Then there is the group of meditations that is designed to awaken our joy of life. And this means that the unconditional joy of life, because our joy of life sometimes depends on certain stimuli, on certain experiences, and then it also wanes when we no longer are connected with these particular experiences, or when things become unpleasant. So there is a certain quality of unconditional joy that also has a lot to do with what you mentioned just before, the life force. Because when we learn to work with our life force, to enhance it and to activate it in different ways, that is a tremendous key. Some of the meditations, for instance, include awakening our inner smile, the smile that we can find within our hearts despite the circumstances. And
I love that, the inner smile. That's the first time I've heard that.
That's a Taoist meditation. Yes, it's simply visualizing or remembering some ideal or irresistible smile, then transforming it into an essence or into pure energy, and using it to move through our body, through the different organs, and smiling into our organs, for instance, smiling into our heart. And this is a healing meditation that Taoists use.
That's great. That's something that personally I think I'm going to explore a little bit. Is there more detail about that in your book?
Oh yes, it is described in great detail.
Great.
Every meditation has not only its description, but also its fully practical instructions.
That is really, when you put it in just layman's language and make it easy to use, that makes people, I think, a lot more comfortable to expand out.
Yes, exactly. And I think it also makes it exciting, because then you begin to realize the range of meditations, and perhaps you can finally become excited about experimenting with meditation. Sometimes I think we're perceiving meditation as a long-faced, serious endeavor, rather than an adventure, a journey into yourself.
That's a good way to put it, because I do think that many people do think that, it's something, I don't have an hour to sit down and do this every day, or they think that it is so much more overwhelming and encompassing than it really is. Because if you can get up and dance or take a walk in the park and use that 5 or 10 minutes to reach that state, everybody can do that.
Yes, exactly. And then you are also beginning to realize that you can do so many surprising things in this dedicated time. For instance, there is a practice called Mystic Rose. And Mystic Rose is a very unexpected form of meditation that is also considered to be some sort of spiritual therapy. You begin by crying. You begin by laughing. You are finding your inner laughter. There is a sense, just as we identify the inner smile deep inside us, that still exists despite all our traumas, all our blows and difficulties and disappointments. We can also find a certain laughter. So we're beginning to evoke this laughter and to follow it until it becomes a cathartic laughter. Then this is replaced with 15 minutes of crying. Here we find this thread of tears that is always within us, as we know. We only need to simply connect with some kind of pain or past disappointment or present disappointment, and then we're beginning to softly let the tears flood us. And all of these, because tears and laughter, they are considered from a meditative perspective two complementary halves. They complement each other. They help us to actually transcend both tears and laughter and eventually reach a natural or effortless state of silence. So we laugh, then we cry, then there is natural silence. But it is the result of a certain cathartic process.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned crying, because for me, crying is a way of connecting. And I've heard a lot of people say that when they go to church, they'll cry. And they feel like that's their way of connecting with the higher universe. So when we say crying, people think of sadness. And listening to you crying, I thought of joy.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yes, I agree that there are tears of joy that actually can sometimes express our joy or our sense of the sacred or our sense of connectedness more than laughter does. Yes.
Well, are there any other of those 7 categories that you'd like to mention to our listening group?
Yes, I think there are 2 particularly interesting groups that can appeal to beginners. One is the group that builds your presence and inner power. This is an important dimension of meditation, because this dimension helps you to cultivate your sense of true inner power. And I think especially in relation to traumas, very often life's experiences have made us feel so small, so powerless. And here meditation helps to expand our sense of presence and to make us regain our bigness. So, for instance, one of the meditations here that I really admire is mountain meditation. In mountain meditation, which comes from the world of the mindfulness movement, developed by John Kabat-Zinn, you are visualizing a mountain in front of you with all the qualities of a mountain. And we know what mountain feels like. If we were mountains, what would we be like? We would be so unmovable, so unshakable, that we would be able to withstand all of life's ups and downs, right? So we are beginning to hold this vision of ourselves as mountains and to bring these qualities into our presence. So I think this is a very beautiful way to begin to feel our unshakable element.
I really like that, the mountain, because a mountain represents strength to me.
Yes. Indestructible strength, in a sense, something that can help us or can inspire us to feel that there is something unshakable in us, even when we feel that our world comes apart. This, I think, when our meditative capacity is actually tested, in those moments when everything comes apart, can we feel that part that doesn't come apart? You see, that part that is still, that has a certain center or core to which the circumstances cannot reach.
Or I always know that my inner core is, even on a physical level, My inner core is what keeps me, that helps me to get up and be able to have balance and move around. And on a mental and emotional level, our inner core is what kind of holds us together.
Yes, because it's just like, having a center or being completely shaped by circumstances. That's the thing. And sometimes because we don't know this sense of core, we are beginning to create a certain psychological haven or a certain world of fantasy within our thoughts and within our emotions. Somewhere we can escape to when things become too hard. Now, the thing with this kind of fantasy world or an inner haven is that it is still made up. It is not. It doesn't have this profound strength that meditation can give you.
Just out of curiosity, how long have you been meditating?
Well, I would say since 1998, yes, which means 24 or even more. Yes, 25 or 26 years. Yes.
That's a long time. Was that, how did you evolve into that? What prompted you to start?
Well, I would say it's there were two factors. One, I remember very clearly that one night I sat with a very close friend. It was a social meeting, and we had a completely trustful connection. And still, I felt this kind of tremendous tension in my knees. And I thought to myself, how come that even in the presence of someone who I love and someone who I feel so relaxed with, I still feel so tense. So that I think initiated a certain search in me to find that key to fearlessness and relaxation. So that was a psychological trigger. The other trigger was simply completely unexplained. I just read certain texts of Zen Buddhism and perhaps if you know Jiddu Krishnamurti, and just reading these words prompt me to begin my search, and then I visited India, searching for masters, for all kinds of gurus. That was the beginning.
Well, you've certainly taken it and built on it for everybody's benefit. And you know, when you were talking about how you got into it, what I was thinking is what got him tensed up? Was it the emotion?
Yes. Well, I think it was a certain self-image. I was trying to impress him. I was trying to be someone, to become someone, rather than simply be.
What we can learn from some of our weakest moments will serve us well. And what I find with people that do with emotion, it can be so limiting. It can create such barriers for people. Have you used meditation to help people work through those emotions?
Yes, I think that the one interesting thing to tell you about is a certain meditation technique that I developed years ago, actually 13 years ago, and it appears in the book as one of the 35 meditation techniques. And I know this is not considered a classical technique, of course, because it's very new. And still, I was happy to share it with the readers. And this meditation involves also a certain therapeutic process, because it is all about a direct expansion of our consciousness in a way that uses certain emotions, whether positive or negative, in order to expand our consciousness. So we're actually beginning with the very sense of tightness or the very sense of contraction that is inherent in a certain emotion that we have. We can even experience extreme sadness and use it in a transformative way as a springboard to meditation.
Well, I think that there's so much that emotion can be a springboard for. We've only got about 6 minutes left, and I'd like for you to share with our listeners what you think the most important takeaways for them would be.
I'd say that if we understand that meditation is a natural state, is returning to a natural state rather than another form of doing, another duty, another chore that we should fulfill, then perhaps we can begin to fall in love with the process of meditation.
That is a great thought. And I fall in love with meditation because we all have physical issues, we have mental issues. And if we have the power within ourselves to heal ourselves, how freeing is that?
Yes, I think this is the greatest realization of meditation, is that we have the power. We have the power. We have simply lost this power. I call this the law of attention. The law of attention actually tells us that because we have forgotten that there is a certain gap between our suffering-inducing thoughts and our mind, our consciousness, our awareness, we have lost this sense of choice. We feel that we no longer have choice. We simply become immediately attached to these misery-causing thoughts. But if we are able to begin to reside in this gap and to widen it, this is where we are beginning to realize that we have the greatest power in the whole universe, and that is the power of our attention. We have the choice of whether to direct our attention to a certain thought or emotion, or to move away from it, leave it behind, and to choose something else to identify with, to give meaning to.
That is a great thought to leave people with. We've got about 3 minutes left, and for people that want to learn more about you, I know you have a website. Do you have YouTube? Is the book on Amazon? Please share with the audience where they can find you.
Well, I think the two easiest ways are my personal website, which is shaitubali.com. And the other way is the free videos that exist in abundance on my YouTube channel. There, I think there are not only guided meditations, but also certain answers that I give in relation to how we can integrate meditation or the meditative spirit into our daily challenges.
That's great. And is the book out yet? Is it on Amazon?
It is out, yes.
And they can find that on Amazon.
Definitely, yes.
Okay. Well, it has been such a pleasure talking with you. And, I wondered, and I know we're almost out of time, but I wondered if you were talking to doctors or teaching this as a class, would you have had a different conversation than we had today?
Oh, yes, definitely. And I do have forms of professional training in which I do speak to medical doctors to therapists to psychologists, and this requires a completely different language and completely different depth of discussion, of course.
Well, I appreciate what you shared with our listeners today and with me as well. And I love some of the words, that inner smile and falling in love with meditation. It just has such positive, embracing, nurturing energy that really inspires me to want to do it instead of being afraid that I won't be able to, or being afraid that I won't have the time. So Shai, I thank you so much. You've given us so much to reflect on and so much to look forward to in the future if we just start to reach out and let that energy into our own heart. It's been an absolute pleasure having you.
Thank you so much, Leigh. Thank you.
On behalf of Leigh Richardson and the Brain Performance Center, we want to thank you for listening. If you'd like to hear more episodes like this, visit us on iTunes, Google Play, TogiNet, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and thebrainperformancecenter.com.